You should be familiar with these things. We just go over it. And of course, how do we copy the list? So we can start with a list, and we can use the word append to add the stuff to the list. Remember, if I create a list, it doesn't have anything. It's just pointing to none. And if it's pointing to none, I cannot use any endings. So I am going to be using the word append. That means I'm adding to my list. So my list is going to grow as I'm adding stuff to it. So first is empty list, and then we're going to keep adding stuff to it. We can initialize it at the starting point. So if we do it initializing with the string, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. The length is 4. Now we have something called insert. So for insert, we get an index. So it's going to go to this list called the friend, and it's going to insert Cindy to the index 1. So this is my 0, this is my 1, so it's going to insert Cindy right here. And of course, it's going to push everything back. So Cindy is going to be inserted in index 1, and everything else is going to be pushed back. So we have some other things in the list. You saw some of them in a string already. So we do have in, which is going to say if this one exists in there. So we can use in. So if Cindy does exist in the friend, it's going to return true. If it doesn't, then it's going to return false. It is not going to give me the index of it. But I can have index, so I can check the index. But the problem with this, if it doesn't exist, then we're going to have a problem. So we might want to check it to be sure it's in there before I go and get the index for it. The next one is called the pop. Remember, in Python, we call functions outside of our classes, and it is part of the class. We call them method. So pop is a method for the list. So that's what we're going to be using. So if I say pop, it's going to go to this index, and it's going to remove this from the list. And of course, the length of the list is going to be reduced by 1. So it does a lot of things in the background, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, we can add the two lists together. So we can use the plus sign to add the two lists. That's called concatenation. So we can add them. So when we're adding them, it's going to create a new temporary list. It's going to put them together, and then it's going to return the address of that temporary location. So that's where we're going to put it into our friends. Remember, you can put it in one of these things. So you can concatenate it and put it in my friends. So my friends are getting longer now. This is another thing that I really like about Python. So you can have a shorter list, and you can use multiplication. So I have a list of 1, 2, 3. I say multiply by 4. I can create a list of 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So that is something that I really like, and I think it's very useful. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So one of the things that might happen is we can use it for initialization. So we are creating a list that's starting with 0, and we're going to have 12 of them. So we do have the equality in Python for the list, and the equality is going to check to be sure they are in the same order and they have the same elements. So if I have the same elements but they are not in the same order, it's not going to return a true. So that's the equality. So you can check to see if two lists are equal. Sum, maximum, and minimum. So instead of going and creating your own sum, maximum, and minimum, there are functions in Python that you can use. You can even use it for strings. Remember, it's going to start with the first character. The uppercase letters are smaller than lowercase. So uppercase A is 65, lowercase a is 97. So that's the way it's going to always going to check it. It's going to check the first character, and if it has the same character in another one, it's going to go to the next one, and that's the way it's going to check to see which one is uh, smaller, which one is larger. The maximum, minimum, and the sum. Those are the functions available. We can use it. We don't have to write the algorithm to do it. We do have a method in the list that's called sort. So you don't have to go through the some mechanism for yourself. You don't have to write the code to do it. Again, that's the reason that Python is getting popular, because it has the stuff that people can use it without writing the code. So we do have the sort for this. So a good use of this is for what? So if I have two lists that I want to compare with, maybe I want to sort them first, then I compare them to be sure that I have them in the same order. Again, this sort is going to affect the uh, list. So we got to be careful about that. Do we want to keep it sorted, or we want to keep the original one? That's something that we have to keep track of it. So again, we cannot just use the equal sign for making a copy of two lists. We're going to be using the word list. So the word list is going to make a copy of my list. So these values is going to have is my list, and I put a list in front of it. So it's going to make a copy of it, and then I assign it to another. So let's go over that again one more time. So I have values as a list. I am going to create a list of these values. That would be a copy of it. And then I assign it to another list. So that's the way we're going to be copying lists.